And then as people come in, they can join us. I know Leslie's taking care of that in the beginning. So hi, everybody. Appreciate everybody coming in, particularly our presenters, Christine, Mike, and Renee. And I think it would be helpful at the starting point just to hear from you three about kind of your introduction, background, where you're working now, what you have going on in the future. And I'd also be interested in hearing kind of how you got into those roles as well. You want to start, Renee?
Sure. So I graduated from Temple with a mechanical engineering degree in December of 2018. So it's been, I guess it's going on a year and a half now, which is crazy. And I work at Lockheed Martin Space in King of Prussia as a systems engineer associate. So I don't really know how I fell in that role. I knew someone who knew that manager that was hiring, and didn't really know what systems engineering was. So kind of was just been learning it on the job for the last year and change. Yeah, and it's going pretty well so far. Can tap into my mechanical background, but I'm definitely expanding my skills, and it's been an interesting first year. So.
Great, thanks. You want to go ahead, Christine?
Sure. I graduated with my BS in 17 and my MS in 18 in civil engineering. I work as a bridge engineer at WSP in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. I kind of wound up there. I actually got the job by going to the career fair and talking to a Temple alum. And that's how I got my interview, and that's how I got hired as an intern there. And then I went back full time when I was done with my master's.
Did you talk to Melissa? Was Melissa the alum?
Yeah, it was Melissa.
Okay, just
yeah.
My own curiosity. And Mike?
So I am currently still at Temple. I'm in my second to last semester. I'll graduate a year from now. I'm in computer and electrical engineering. I had an internship last year at Comcast, and I have an internship also coming up at Comcast. I also work IT for the College of Engineering. So that's been remote, and I've also had remote experience last year at Comcast, as my team was not all located in Philadelphia. So yeah.
Great. So I guess I'd be interested as well as hearing about what has your experience been with work from home? Is it something you had done somewhat before this kind of all started? If not, when did you start doing it full time? How long has it been now? And how has that affected how you work? Specifically for my own interest, really, I'm curious how it's affected your engineering related responsibilities. Has that become more difficult? Is so much of it virtual in terms of software and things that you've been able to seamlessly move along, or has it been choppy as you've been kind of figuring out how that works?
I guess I can start. So Lockheed Martin is a huge company, and we do a lot of virtual work with our other locations, depending on what program we're on. So it wasn't something we were completely new to. And in general, Lockheed Martin is flexible. Like if you have a doctor's appointment or you need to flex your hours, like you can work from home a little bit or do 410s, or they're pretty flexible leading up to this. The main issue is that we've dealt with is working with certain sensitive information. That's been the challenge because you have to be physically on site to deal with that. So I'm kind of like, we're actually considered a essential like business for the defense industrial base. So I'm considered an essential personnel, which is interesting. I never thought that would happen with being an engineer. So I have like carry papers, and when I do have to go in to work on certain things, I am allowed to, and I have to wear a mask. And we also do like a schedule to make sure there are only so many people in an area at a time. So that's definitely been the biggest challenge. But with the other work that I'm doing that isn't so sensitive, it's in terms of difficulties we face, we have a lot of people using the VPN. So we've dealt with a lot of Outlook or Skype glitches or connectivity issues, I guess, depending on like if your home Wi-Fi can handle it. I'm sure that Michael, you'd be able to explain that more. But so that's been probably when it comes to like doing the engineering work. communicating with others, that can be a little bit more difficult when you can't just run up to their desk or their Skype isn't working. So yeah, from a day-to-day basis, it's been okay, but it's definitely not perfect. So.
Since you're going into the office on occasion, have they provided you with like masks and things like that, or have you kind of been on your own?
So we have stations set up with different cleaning products, and I mean, before they did that, even I started bringing in my own wipes to wipe everything down, because in these areas that we work in, we actually share computers too, because it's more like a computer lab. So that really kind of made me a little bit anxious about doing that. So I was pretty, on the ball about wiping down the space before and after I use it. Kind of like not as big as a tech center, but like the same idea, where you'd be sharing computers. So that was one issue that they resolved by putting cleaning supplies everywhere. And when you walk in the doors and stuff, there's hand sanitizer and whatnot. They didn't provide masks for us until this week. I think it's happening more at a local level because it's not mandated yet that we wear them. Even though I've been wearing them for the last, I guess this is the third week I've worn a mask in the office. Not everyone has been. I don't know if that's going to change. I think people are getting more, starting to impose that a little bit more in certain businesses. Like I saw like a grocery store had posted that they're requiring all like shoppers and customers to wear masks. So I don't know how that's going to change. But from my program perspective, my program manager was able to get a hold of masks, and they were at her desk to go pick up if we needed one. So that was good. That happened this week. So hopefully we'll start seeing more people wearing them. Hopefully that's happening all over the business. But I know just like they keep reminding us, just like healthcare workers are trying to get a hold of PPE, and the general public is short. There's a shortage of it everywhere. They're facing the same issues. So.
Great, thanks.
I can go ahead next. So in terms of like, it's a lot different working with software engineering, I would say, being at home versus like next to these people, because although those of you who aren't software engineers probably won't think about it as much, there's a lot of like human interaction with like when you have bugs in your code, when you have problems, like it's really nice. And I didn't really appreciate it as much until I didn't have it anymore, of being able to go next to the person next to you and say, hey, can you take a look at this? So that was like a big change for me. Starting to work remote. That's more from like the software engineering perspective. For IT, it is a lot different as well, because it's pretty hard sometimes. Like, for example, a big problem that we help with people with is like Zoom. And when their Zoom isn't working, you can't hear them, and sometimes you can't see them. So you're trying to help someone that you can't, you're kind of half deaf and half blind. So it definitely complicates things a lot. Or for example, like when they don't have their microphone working, now you're trying to type through a chat just to get that person their information. So I would say that like a lot of things have become a lot more complicated. And in general, I've had to, in the past, like stay a lot more on top of it, ask questions almost like as soon as I have them, because people won't respond right away the same way they will as if you walk over to their desk and say, hey, can you help me with this? So I think like it's just, for me personally, been more of something I have to more stay on top of and like plan more. But in terms of like the job hasn't really changed in my opinion, because like I'm still like working on the same things. So yeah.
Has Comcast talked to you at all about what your summer is going to be like?
They've talked to other, like the finance interns and other internship programs, but they have not yet reached out to the tech interns.
Okay.
So we are still awaiting that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When are you supposed to start? Did you have a start date?
June 1st is the set
Okay.
start date. There were
So,
people who were supposed to start earlier than that, and they already pushed everyone back to be June 1st.
Okay.
I've also heard, I have friends who have like internships, for example, like at Merck, that had theirs pushed back by like 2 or 3 weeks. So there's a lot of kind of like waiting and waiting. So
Yeah.
that's going on right now.
Yeah. Thanks.
So I guess I'm next. How it's kind of affected. So I've been doing this for about a month now, full time. Before that, it was just like optional, just like when I didn't feel like going into work, I could work from home. So a big thing is just like I can't go into the office anymore. That's a mental thing. It's been pretty hard, but and in terms of how it's affected my work, I'm on the phone way more than I thought I would be. Like I spend all of Mondays in meetings, just like the entire day is a big long meeting. Like it's the weirdest experience I've ever had. And so like kind of echoing what Michael was saying about how it's more difficult because now you have to get someone to talk to you and like look at what you've done. What I've been doing is just calling them, you know, and just not giving them notice so they have no choice but to answer the call. That's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. Yeah, so I spent a lot of my time on the phone. One other thing that's really affected me is I'm a big paper person. I don't like looking at my plans on the computer. I don't like I want it on paper. So that's been really hard for me, trying to transition to PDFs. I've been lucky. I took home 2 monitors from work, so I have a 3-monitor setup. So like it's effective, like I'm still like efficient, but I don't know, it's just difficult because I'm a paper person. Also staying kind of motivated is tough. That's definitely been hard. And I find that I'm like logged into work longer just to work what I feel is like an 8-hour day. But a lot of the times it's not. I'm still able to do all the same work. I can still do my programs. I can, you know, do everything I need to. It's just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. And I would be interested, especially because you're coming from an industry more so that may be seeing economic effects of what's going on. Have you guys had a sense at all of how that's going to be long term for you?
I don't know how this is across the entire industry, but at my office, we're quite light on work at the moment, very light. And I don't see that changing because the state is also closed. So, well, they're not completely closed, but they're sort of closed. So it's like hard for us to get work, but we do see like from the higher ups that like there's a lot of money going towards infrastructure. So it is going to change a little bit more long term, but right now, like my office is very light. And that's been a struggle too, to try to communicate with your managers and say, hey, I'm running out of work. I need more work. When you're not there in person, that's been a bit of a struggle as well with this transition.
Great. And I know most of you, I think, have probably touched on this a little bit already. But what has kind of been the hardest part of this, or what has, I guess, surprised you the most about this transition? Has anything kind of stood out to you that maybe you wouldn't have expected?
I can go first. So the human interaction for me is like a big thing because it's like a lot harder to like ask for help, and also like not talking to people for like 5 hours a day is like really hard for me personally. I don't know. So maybe I shouldn't have gone into software engineering, but anyway, the other thing that I've kind of noticed myself doing, and I notice a lot of people around me do, is that I'll work a lot more than 8 hours in a day because it just feels like, oh, like I'm at home, like I should just keep working, like, oh, let me just like get this done, and like all of a sudden it's like 7:30 at night and I haven't eaten dinner and I just did work the whole day. So I think that's like something that, and usually like, for example, like at Comcast, the culture is like very laid back in general, but people have like just started like messaging you on weekends, like constantly like 8 o'clock at night, like, hey, can you take a look at this for me? So I think like trying to like take a step back from work and still like have like that work-life balance has been something that I've had to pay attention to, and that I was surprised that it was as big of a problem as it is.
That's interesting. So basically, since people are working from home, everything has become work almost, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think
feeling,
people are bored. Like I got like a text like from a boss at like on Saturday, like 6 p.m. and it's like, hey, can you take a look at this for me? And it's like, what day is it? So yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to second that the work-life balance line is kind of blurred now. I think the first week that this happened, which was like I think it started March 16th, where officially we got the email like work with your managers to figure out like an arrangement, telecommuting or a flexible schedule. And I didn't go into the office at all that week. And I remember I was like, oh, I can just like roll out of bed. And I usually get up pretty early and would work out in the morning. That's what I started doing like as part of my New Year's resolution. And figures this year I do that and all the gyms shut down. But so I was like, okay, well, I can't go to the gym anymore. I'll just like sign on to work at 6 a.m. or something and get my day done earlier. But I didn't actually end up necessarily like ending my day at that time. And my whole day was just work, and I wasn't working out, and I wasn't really eating like on time, or like forgetting to eat or snacking because like the fridge is right behind me. So that first week just felt like one big day where I didn't do anything. I didn't see the light of day the whole week. So I think establishing like a new routine, like a modified routine, has been the biggest help for me since that first week. I was also staying up way later because I was like, oh, I don't have to go in tomorrow, and like watching Love is Blind till like 11 p.m. when I usually go to bed at 9 or 10. And so I've started to like get back on my routine, even though I physically can't go out to the gym. I've been working out at home and trying to like keep as much normalcy from my old routine as possible and modifying it now. And that's really helped, but that was definitely the most difficult part. And it's something I like this week I've been off. So I have to get back on track next week and not just working out, but like other things too, where finding that balance is really hard. And it's really easy to things to sway more towards work now, which is interesting because when you think work from home, you think it's going to be like kind of easier and it's not going to feel like your day is as consumed with work, but I've actually kind of felt the opposite. So.
Yeah, I've kind of felt the same when I first started with working way longer hours. But actually after the first week that I stopped doing that, I get out of bed at like 9:30, 10 now. I'm on the super late schedule. But I work later than I intend to usually. But I've been able to try to like take a step back. One thing that's been bothering me is I used to work in my office. As you can tell, it's not my office. I like change rooms every couple of days because I was like losing my mind in my office. So that was really hard for me, was never leaving that room all day. So that's what hit me the hardest.
I moved my table from the dining area to like by my like slider doors because like I just needed to be able to see outside and have like a specific workspace because I have a really small apartment too, and I don't have like a desk per se, like specifically like for work or like studying because I don't do a lot of work from home before that. So I know like a lot of my friends and stuff at work, like they're like, yeah, I'm sitting at my dining room table because like people that don't have houses probably don't have a specific home office. So I had to like create that space, which has helped, but that's been something I wouldn't have thought of before this all happened too.
Yeah, I think space is interesting. And from my experience, so my wife is a lawyer and she practices a kind of law that the government has decided still has to be completely done by paper and that they can't do anything virtually. And she's a partner in that law firm, and she's basically running her law firm out of my house. Like we have a big industrial size printer. We have like an industrial size scanner. She has to go to FedEx every day to mail, the paper cases that they're sending to the government. So yeah, that rings really true with me as well. That like over the weekend, she was like, we just have to move stuff. Like I'm getting overwhelmed by work. She gets her office's mail delivered to our house every morning. So we had all these like USPS mail bins laying around the house. And it definitely got to the point where like everything had been merging into one experience. Like it was interesting. And that kind of leads, I guess, into kind of the last topic we were interested in hearing from. It's like, what advice would you give to people who are making this transition? I know we have, obviously, Michael's doing it, but Leslie and I are hearing from students who are getting an experience where they have job offers and those offers are either getting delayed or you're probably going to start working from home. And their question is, I don't know how to do that necessarily. So I guess I'd be interested to hear from your experiences, what kind of during that transition do you wish you had done or you think maybe would have been helpful to hear from the beginning?
So I can go first. The big thing for me personally is like, I know a lot of people will try to like do work in their bed, and like I could not advise more against that because like for me personally, and I know for a lot of people, like if I'm in my bed, like I'm not doing anything. Like I can say I'm doing something, but like 3 hours later, I'll look back and I'll be like, wow, nothing got done. So I think like having like a space that's like, okay, this is where I do work is really important. Or even if like that space has to change every like week because you get stir crazy staring at the same things. But there definitely should be, in my opinion, like a physical difference between like where you do work and like where you do everything else. And like having like that physical, because like that is how it works. Like when you're normally going to work, you go to wherever your office is, you do your work, you leave, and you don't think about work, hopefully, for the rest of the day. Doesn't always happen, but that's hopefully like how it works. So I think like having still like that physical barrier is a great way to like maintain like that work life balance and still be very productive too, like when you're actually doing work.
Something else I would say in addition to that is don't be afraid to call people you work with. Before this, I hated calling anyone at work. A lot of the projects I work on, my higher ups aren't in my office. So technically I was supposed to call them, but I just despised calling people on the phone. So I just didn't. And now like I've been forced to finally do it. And it's like not that bad. So that's what I would recommend is just call people if you have a question.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you said. And I guess I'll add that I think you have to be even more conscious of how you're managing your time when you're working from home to make sure you're being productive. I think one of you mentioned that, I think it was you, Christine, that your days are just like back-to-back meetings sometimes. And it didn't used to be like that. I definitely had the same experience. I think it's probably because we can't just walk up to someone's desk. So people are like establishing more meeting times, or some people feel like scheduling a meeting is productive, even though there are some meetings that probably don't have to be going on. But I've just found that my calendar is like full of Skype meetings now. And I have to be really careful about what I do in those 30 minutes in between, or that hour in between, like being really careful about making sure I get something done or cross something off my list and prioritizing my goals for that day. Because otherwise it's really easy to lose track of that, being home and not being face-to-face with people and having all of these meetings and other distractions going on. I think it's really important to like, I guess a basic piece of advice is I have my planner right here and I'm still like using it every single day. So if you don't have a planner, get one, because it's going to be really important to be able to plan your days when you're working from home. Yeah.
That's really helpful. I mean, I think even just on a selfish point of view, we are not only getting questions from students how to prepare for this, but I've been starting to get questions from employers about, hey, we're going to have these students or these graduates here. Kind of what are you hearing about it? And honestly, we haven't been hearing very much, just because it hasn't really happened yet for most of these people. So it's really helpful to have that feedback to kind of share with both sides of this. I think both graduates and students who are about to go on internships and employers who want to provide a positive experience when these people are working with them, and kind of how they can help do that. And I think the biggest hurdle is, as it sounds like all of you have kind of figured out, is that the first week is kind of a disaster, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's kind of prepared for what this looks like or how this is going to work. So as much as you can smooth out those initial first couple of days hiccups, minus any tech concerns, obviously, it is super helpful and kind of makes it easier in the long run. Yeah, does anybody else have any kind of questions? No? If not, again, I thank all of you for kind of taking part and kind of sharing your experiences. It's super helpful. I know we'll work to kind of get that messages out, and it's helpful for us to hear kind of what your experience are. Especially again for Leslie and myself, not to talk too much about it, but our experience isn't the same as yours. We're just doing different things. We have different functions. We think about things in a different way, where it's just not, I'm an engineer and it seems hard. It seems difficult to imagine doing engineering, for me anyway, in such a non-collaborative, for lack of a better term, right way, in terms of what you guys have been talking about, how the importance of communicating, getting on the phone, having meetings. So it's good to hear what your experiences have been. Cool. Anybody else? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? All right. Again, thank you guys. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us. And if you have anything you need from us in the future, definitely don't hesitate to let us know.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Have a
See
good
you,
one.
Christine.